Everyone knows bleed is a powerful tool in Elden Ring, so in this video I wanted to see how good unorthodox bleed focused weapons and builds are at different stages of the game. In order to follow this, I'll be doing the challenge region locked and will only use each setup for a few regions of the map. To start, I made my way to the Church of Pilgrimage to farm for the bandits' curved swords. These aren't the most interesting weapons, but I couldn't think of anything else from Limgrave apart from the Reduvia dagger, which is very overused. After about a half hour of farming, I got both swords. I also got a Lost Ash of War, and now that I had my first few weapons, I picked up the Green Turtle Talisman and the Charged Attack Tier for later builds. I also got the Axe Talisman on the way to Fort Height. I killed the Knight to get the Bloody Slash Ash of War, and using the Lost Ash of War from earlier, I duplicated it and put it on both swords. Now that I had my bleed weapon, I fought Morgott. Morgott himself wasn't very difficult, but the fight lasted a while because with no access to smithing stone ball bearings, I hadn't bothered upgrading my swords. Additionally, due to the region locking, I never killed Grail and Caelid for extra levels. However, the bleed damage was very good, and after a tedious fight, he went down. Heading into Stormveil, I grabbed the Claw Talisman, then fought Godfrey, who is in the same situation as Morgott. He was easy, the bleed damage was good, but it took a while because of my +0 swords. Now that I beat Godric, I got access to Liurnia. I went to fight the Cleanrot Knight for the Winged Sword insignia, and also got the Dexterity tier, as well as one half of the Halig Tree medallion on the way to the Crystal Tunnel. I worked my way to the bottom and then killed the Crystallion for the first Miner's Bell Bearing. After taking Inch's armor, I upgraded my swords and went on to Raya Lucaria.
I'm taking it.
Rennala herself was a little more challenging, as the damage output was much lower than I'm used to because of my region locking rule. Specifically, her homing barrages in the second phase kept one-shotting me. However, after a few drawn-out attempts, I took her down.
Have you ever had a dream?
I went back to Roundtable Hold to get the Talisman pouch for having 2 Great Runes, then took out Magma Worm Makar to make my way into Altus now that I was allowed to. I was planning to use the Ash of War on my next weapon, but realized I never killed Alexander for the Jar Shard. However, upon going back he was gone, and I realized I'd have to complete his quest to get it. After trudging to the Volcano Manor, I fought Inquisitor Giza. I wanted his weapon Giza's Wheel, which is the armament I'll be using for the next few bosses. It has a unique Ash of War. The axe is a saw, doing great bleed buildup. I grabbed the strength tier so I could properly wield the weapon, then got the Ritual Sword Talisman. Now that I had my new weapon in hand, I fought the Draconic Tree Sentinel. The Ash of War was very good for getting bleed procs and staggering him. The fight was actually really easy due to the strength of Giza's Wheel. However, due to my low vigor, I died at least 10 times just to his sweeping slam follow-up lightning attack thing in the second phase.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Boom, bam, bop, bada bop, boom, pow.
Next up was Godfrey's Shade, who is pretty easy. My damage was hindered by his bleed immunity, but luckily the damage of the wheel's heavy attacks made up for it, and after a few attempts he went down. Now that I had taken out the boss immune to bleed, I took a long detour to the sewers, reaching the catacombs with Esker. After a hair-pulling number of fights, I killed Esker and got the Lord of Blood's Exaltation to boost my damage after bleeding an enemy. This talisman is arguably the most important of the whole run. Now that my bleed was a little bit stronger, I fought Morgott, who went down very quickly. The Ash of War shredded his health bar after the bleed procced easily. I had to damage tank some to use the Ash of War, but he went down after a few tries.
Yeah, boy.
Now that I defeated Morgott, I unlocked Caelid. To start, I killed a putrid avatar to get the stamina regen tier, and went to the rock cave to get the golden scarab talisman. Now that I was in Caelid, I finally took out Grail for some extra levels, then made my way to Radahn. Along the way, I took out Decaying Azeeks for some runes. Radahn was very easy as Giza's wheel shredded his health bar, getting many bleed procs as the Astral War was good to use while walking into him as he spun around swinging. He went down easily on my first try. Ready now to head into the mountaintops of the giants, I stopped by Groveside Cave to get the Raptor's Talons, my next bleed-focused weapon. The Raptor's Talons are a claw weapon, which is a weapon type with very unique attacks. I grabbed the third Miner's Bell Bearing and upgraded them. I respected Rennala and then put a Colt on the Talons. Lastly, I got the Cragblade Astral War to buff their poison attacking damage by 10%. Now that I was using a multi-hit build, I also completed Millicent's questline by killing Commander O'Neill, giving her the Valkyrie's Prosthesis, fighting the Godskin Apostle, and eventually killing her for the Millicent's Prosthesis Talisman, which stacks multi-hit damage with my Wing Sword Insignia. Now that my Raptor's Talons bleed build was coming together, I fought Vike for extra runes and realized just how strong of a bleed-based strategy I had. Afterwards, I went straight to Fire Giant, who went down on my first try. The claws had great bleed buildup, and thanks to the multi-hit talismans, did pretty good damage on their own, so after a brief 2-minute fight, victory was mine.
Yeah, boy. Nice.
Since I wasn't aware of any other bleed weapons to pick up and the claws were doing exceptionally well, I went straight to the Godskin duo who were decimated by the bleed buildup of the Raptor's Talons. I killed them in about 40 seconds on my first try. Right after, I battled Malekith, who also went down first try. His second phase was notably easy, with me getting a poise break halfway through and then killing him from there.
You are my sun.
Before moving on to the endgame, I wanted to stop and fight Placidusax, which was in part a mistake. The fight took me quite a while to win, due in large part to his high status resistance, meaning I barely got any bleed damage. However, after a long drawn out fight, I clutched up and killed him with no healing flasks left. Once I was in Leyndell, I was reminded that Gideon is truly a boss of all time.
Hello all my fans on YouTube and Facebook and everything, just like on the internet. He's asked me to perform Oh Baby Baby, Hit Me Baby One More Time.
The next boss on the chopping block was Hoarah Loux. The claws did excellent damage to him and took out the first phase without much issue. The claws still did well in the second phase, being able to utilize the small attacking windows well. However, I kept slipping up and getting grabbed. Luckily, after a few tries, I emerged victorious.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here, and the iTunes Store.
I wanted to fight Mohg and Malenia before ending the run, so I fought the ever nefarious Commander Nile, and as always, the hardest part of the fight was killing his ghost summons. Then he went down pretty quickly as the talons whittled away at his health bar. Now that I had both halves of the Haligtree medallion, I went to consecrated snowfields. To start, I killed the Erdtree avatar to get the thorny crack tier. Once I was in Mohg's palace, I fought the White Mask invaders to get the White Mask helmet in order to further boost my damage after triggering bleed. The Lord of Blood was laughably easy, as he is of course very weak to bleed, so I just stood next to him and bleed procced him over and over while he tried to practice counting until he died, bypassing his second phase. Now that I had defeated Mohg, I could get the next weapon, which is Mohg's trident, which I redeemed from his remembrance. The weapon has a powerful Ash of War that does lots of damage and bleed buildup. I fought Loretta with it, and it did alright, although the fight took quite a few tries, mostly just due to Loretta sucking as a boss. Malenia was interesting. The Trident's Ash of War was too slow to use in the first phase, as when I tried, I'd usually just get killed by waterfowl, or she would heal half the damage I dealt. However, due to its whimsically long range, the Trident could poke and prod Malenia to death, without her even being able to attack. Doing this, I eventually reached the second phase after about 15 attempts, at which point I just spammed the Ash of War as she recovered from her flower attack and effortlessly defeated her, proving how broken the Trident's bleed buildup truly is. The only thing left to do was to beat Radahn and Elden Beast. I switched back to the Talons, which were respec to heavy, as the final pair of bosses are tragically immune to bleed. The claws shredded Radaghn's health bar, leaving me not even time to heal before he died. Elden Beast was not much tougher, however, due to the Raptor's Talon's poor poise damage, I never poise broke Elden Beast and had to chase him around until eventually, on my first attempt, I put him and his redheaded stepchild in their place. Thanks for watching the video. I hope the audio quality was better this time, and if you liked the video, please subscribe and leave a like as it really helps out the channel.